Welcome to the Immigrant in Law channel. If you've been thinking about emigrating, you've probably already researched what professions make it easier to find a job abroad. This issue we have conditionally divided into two parts to take a closer look at the key topics. In the first part, I will tell you what professions are most in demand in the European Union countries right now, why there is a stable demand for them, and in what areas it is easiest to find a job. And in the second part, we will talk about the professions of the future, which are just beginning to develop in the EU, and we will understand what documents, knowledge, and steps will be needed to find a job abroad. It will be useful for both those who are already working in their field and those who are just choosing a path. The countries of the European Union today are in dire need of qualified professionals. The reasons are simple and clear: aging of the population, the outflow of young people to other regions, the transition to a digital and green economy. A number of countries, such as Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, the Czech Republic, Poland, Romania, and Slovenia, are actively adapting migration policies to attract migrant workers. This includes not only highly qualified IT specialists, but also laborers, medical personnel, engineers, logisticians, and teachers. The European Union has even developed a pan-European list of in-demand professions, which is updated annually. Based on this list, some countries introduce accelerated procedures for issuing work visas or temporary residence permits. For example, in Germany, since 2024, there is a simplified procedure of Opportunity Card, according to the point system for foreign specialists with experience and education. Also important is the trend towards internal reformatting of labor markets. The unemployment rate in the EU remains relatively low, but companies are increasingly facing staff shortages in narrow sectors. This applies to skilled labor as well as simple but vital occupations, from locksmith to nurse. Thus, in-demand specialties in Europe can be conditionally divided into three groups: IT and technical areas, medical and social professions, workers and service specialties. Let's take a look at each of these three categories in more detail. Let's see which specific professions are most in demand in EU countries today and what opportunities they offer for those planning to work abroad. IT and engineering. In the field of information technologies and engineering, the shortage of personnel is felt in many EU countries. And if earlier employers focused primarily on internal reserves, today they are increasingly opening vacancies for foreign specialists. For example, Germany has officially recognized the shortage of IT personnel as a threat to economic development. According to the Federal Employment Agency, the country needs more than 130,000 programmers, administrators, and IT architects, and this is only in the next 2 years. The Netherlands is actively hiring specialists in artificial intelligence, cloud technologies, and data science. For many positions, knowledge of Dutch is not necessary, English is sufficient. Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, and the Czech Republic are forming entire technoparks and digital industries that require developers, QA engineers, DevOps, cybersecurity specialists, and UI/UX designers. Salary levels are competitive, and residence permits for IT specialists are simplified. Engineering professions are a separate area. There is a particularly acute shortage of electrical engineers, designers and constructors, automation engineers, construction and infrastructure specialists. It is important to note that in the EU, not only experience is valued, but also readiness for additional training. Many companies help you take courses or adaptation programs after you move. If you have a technical education, knowledge of English or German, and 2 to 3 years of work experience, you are in the category of specialists who are already welcomed in Europe. Medicine and social sphere. The health and social care sector are two of the most scarce in the European Union. Many countries face system overload even before the pandemic. And after 2020, the situation has only worsened. The reason is the aging population, the outflow of young specialists, and the general increase in the burden on medicine. The shortage is particularly acute. Nurses and orderlies, general practitioners, gerontologists and nursing professionals, psychologists and psychotherapists, rehabilitation therapists and physiotherapists. In Germany, a shortage of more than 500,000 elderly care professionals is expected for 2025. The country has a program to accelerate the recruitment of workers from third countries, including the possibility of recognizing foreign diplomas through internships and language courses. France, Belgium, and Austria are also actively recruiting nurses and caregivers, often in private institutions and nursing homes, where the workload is balanced and working conditions are strictly regulated. In France, for example, speech therapists and autism specialists are also in demand, especially in regions where there is a shortage of specialized teachers. In the Baltic and Eastern European countries, such as Poland, the Czech Republic, Latvia, and Slovakia, there is also a stable demand for nursing staff, especially in public clinics. They often provide accommodation and help with adaptation. What is important to know: in the EU, recognition of a diploma is required in almost all cases. This process can be both fast, for example, in Poland, FRPM 3 to 6 months, and long, for example, in Germany, up to 1 year. You will need to pass exams on specialized terminology and confirm the language level, most often B1, B2. After passing the nostrification procedure, a doctor or nurse gets access to a license and can officially work. There is a separate demand for social workers, specialists in working with children, migrants, and people with disabilities. Such vacancies are open in Scandinavia, the Netherlands, and Slovenia. If your profession is in the healthcare or social assistance system, and you are ready to pass the stage of qualification confirmation and language learning, you have real chances for employment and stable income in the EU. When people talk about employment in Europe, they most often mention highly qualified fields. But in practice, it is service professions that are among the most in demand on the labor market in the EU countries. The reason for this is simple. There is a shortage of people willing to work with their hands. The local population chooses physical labor less and less often, which means that the demand for such specialists is steadily growing. The shortage is most acute in the following areas: construction, masons, plasterers, tilers, roofers, installers; engineering, communications, electricians, plumbers, metalworkers, technicians; food production, bakers, butchers, packers; transportation and logistics, truck drivers, warehouse workers, forklift operators; hotel and restaurant sector, cooks, waiters, cleaners, maids; agriculture, seasonal harvesters, milkmaids, mechanizers. Poland, the Czech Republic, and Lithuania have quotas and simplified recruitment procedures for foreign workers. Often employers themselves issue work permits and help with housing. For example, in Poland, you can get a one-year contract and a residence permit if you have an offer from a factory or construction site. Germany and Austria are interested in experienced construction and logistics specialists. These countries have already introduced simplified migration programs, including those based on vocational education. German is not always required. At the initial stage A2, B1 level is sufficient, especially if the work does not involve contact with customers. In Spain, Portugal, and Greece, job vacancies are most often found in the hotel and restaurant industry, especially during the tourist season. Cleaners, kitchen assistants, maids, and bartenders are in demand. In many cases, knowledge of Spanish or Greek is not necessary. Physical endurance and punctuality are more important. It should be understood, even if the profession does not require higher education, official employment in the EU is possible only through a work permit and/or work visa. Illegal labor can lead to fines, deportation, and entry bans. Nevertheless, many countries already have legal ways for migrant workers: employment through agencies, contracts directly from the employer, visas for seasonal work with subsequent extension. If you have an in-demand working profession, experience, and willingness to move, you may well qualify for stable employment in the countries of the European Union. To summarize, regardless of your level of education or field of work, you do have a chance to find a job in the EU if you have the right skills and are willing to relocate. Today, we've covered in detail the three main categories of in-demand professions, from high-tech to service professions. But that's not all. In the second part, we will talk about promising professions of the future, which are just beginning to develop actively in the European Union, as well as we will understand what is important to pay attention to when working abroad, from the recognition of diplomas to visa requirements. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and ask your questions in the comments. I will be happy to answer them. Don't miss the second part. It will be even more useful.